Mrs. Elowen Hartley does not like surprises. She likes tea at 4 o'clock. She likes her garden shears hung on the second hook from the left. She likes mysteries that arrive in neat envelopes with return addresses she recognizes. So when the letter came, folded twice, written in a trembling hand, smelling faintly of lavender water and worry, she set it beside her saucer and finished her biscuit first. Because some mysteries, she had learned over 72 years, do not improve with haste. The letter was from a woman named Margaret Doyle, and it said simply, "Mrs. Hartley, my son is coming home. He died 15 years ago. Please help me understand why I am not happy." Elowen read the line 3 times. Then she put on her coat, straightened her hat, and walked to the village of Thornwell, where Margaret Doyle had been waiting for a dead boy to return. The Doyle cottage sat at the edge of Thornwell, where the road turned to gravel and the hedgerows grew wild. It was not a sad house, exactly, but it was a tired one. The paint on the shutters had faded from blue to the colour of a winter sky at dusk. The front garden had roses that had not been pruned in years. Mrs. Hartley noticed these things. She always noticed. Margaret Doyle answered the door wearing a dress that was too formal for a Tuesday afternoon, a wool dress, dark green, the kind women kept for funerals and village meetings. Her hair was grey and pulled back tightly. Her hands were shaking slightly, though she hid them behind her back. "Mrs. Doyle," Elowen said, "you wrote to me." Margaret nodded. She did not smile. "I didn't know who else to call. The vicar thinks I'm confused. The doctor gave me tablets. But I am not confused, Mrs. Hartley. My son Liam died in 2008. I have a photograph of his grave in my bedroom drawer. I have a letter from his commanding officer. I have a folded flag they gave me at the funeral." Her voice cracked. "And yesterday a young man knocked on my door and said, 'Hello, Mum, I'm home.'" Elowen did not gasp. She did not say, "How extraordinary," or "Are you certain?" She simply stepped inside the cottage, removed her gloves, and asked the only question that mattered. What did he look like? Margaret led her to the sitting room. On the sideboard was a framed photograph, a boy of 18, freckled, sandy-haired, grinning at the camera with the easy confidence of someone who had never known real fear. "That's Liam," Margaret said, "before he left." Then she handed her a second photograph. This one was newer, blurrier, taken through a window. "He came at dusk. He stood right there on the doorstep, taller than Liam, broader in the shoulders, but his face, Mrs. Hartley—" She stopped. "His face?" Elowen prompted gently. Margaret looked at the floor. His face was Liam's, the same eyes, the same shape of the mouth, but his hands, Mrs. Hartley. Liam had a scar on his right thumb from a fishing hook when he was 12. I asked to see this young man's hands. He wouldn't show me." Mrs. Hartley set down the photographs. "Mrs. Doyle," she said, "I am not a police officer. I am not a private detective in the way you might imagine. I am simply a woman who notices things, and I have learned that when a mother knows her own child, even after 15 years, she is almost never wrong." Margaret began to cry silently, tears sliding down her cheeks without a single sound. "Will you help me?" she asked. Elowen picked up her gloves again. "I shall begin tomorrow morning. First light." The next day, Mrs. Hartley arrived at the Thornwell Parish Hall at 7 o'clock, when the cleaning woman was scrubbing the floors and the vicar was still asleep. She had 3 questions she needed answered. First, who was this young man claiming to be Liam Doyle? Second, why had he chosen Margaret Doyle's doorstep after 15 years? And third, the quiet question, the one she did not say aloud. Why had no one else in Thornwell seemed to notice? She began with the vicar. The Reverend Mr. Algernon Finch was a kind man, but a forgetful one, the sort who remembered sermons better than faces. He confirmed that Margaret had come to him 2 days ago, distraught, speaking of a young man who looked like her dead son. Poor woman, the vicar said, pouring Elowen a cup of tea that was mostly milk. Grief does strange things to the mind. I told her to rest, to take her tablets, to trust in God's plan. "And you did not go to see this young man yourself?" asked Elowen. The vicar blinked. "I assumed he was a figment, a wish. Margaret has been alone for so long. The mind—" "Yes," Elowen said, not unkindly, "the mind." But she noted that the vicar had not asked a single question. He had assumed. Assumption, Mrs. Hartley had long believed, was the enemy of truth. From the vicarage she walked to the post office. This was her habit. In every village the postmistress knew more than the vicar, the doctor, and the constable combined. Betty Crabtree ran the Thornwell post office. She was 78, sharp-eyed, and afraid of nothing except her nephew's motorcycle. "Mrs. Hartley," Betty said, not looking up from sorting envelopes, "you're here about the Doyle boy. Word travels fast. Word travels at the speed of a woman with nothing better to do," Betty replied. She set down the letters and folded her arms. "I'll tell you what I told the milkman. That young man arrived on the Monday afternoon bus. He got off at the stop by the War Memorial. He asked a teenager where Margaret Doyle lived, then he walked straight to her cottage and knocked. You saw this? I saw everything from this window." Betty nodded towards the street. "He's not Liam Doyle. I knew Liam. He used to fetch his mother's pension every month. This one is taller. His walk is different. Liam walked like he was apologizing for taking up space. This one walks like he's expecting the world to move aside." Elowen smiled slightly. "What else?" "He's staying at the White Hart Inn. Paid for 3 nights in cash. Didn't give a surname. Said his name was Jack." "And you didn't ask for identification?" Tom Roper looked uncomfortable. He had a way about him, not threatening, just certain, like he expected things to go his way. "I didn't push." Mrs. Hartley nodded. She understood. Some people carried authority like a second skin. This young man was one of them. "Is he here now?" "No, left about an hour ago. Said he was going for a walk." Elowen asked to see his room. Tom hesitated, then handed her the key. The room was small, clean, and entirely unremarkable. But Mrs. Hartley did not need remarkable. She needed ordinary details. She opened the wardrobe. 1 change of clothes, a brown jacket, a grey shirt, sturdy boots. Nothing expensive, but nothing cheap. Practical, anonymous. She checked the bedside table. A paperback novel, a train timetable, a receipt from a shop 30 miles away, dated 4 days ago. And then she found it. Under the pillow, a photograph. It was an old photograph, faded, soft at the edges. It showed 2 boys, maybe 12 or 13 years old, arms around each other's shoulders, grinning at the camera. One of them was sandy-haired, freckled, familiar. That was Liam Doyle, the real one. The other boy was dark-haired, serious even in his smile. He had the same eyes of the young man who had knocked on Margaret Doyle's door. Elowen turned the photograph over. On the back, written in pencil, was a single line. "If I can't be me, I'll be him." She stood very still for a long moment. Then she replaced the photograph exactly where she had found it, locked the room behind her, and walked outside into the cold spring sunshine. Mrs. Hartley stood up from the bench. She had received her answer, but she had also received something else, a small, cold certainty that there was more to this story than a soldier's promise and a mother's grief. "Mr. Cross," she said quietly, "there is something you are not telling me." Daniel looked up at her. His expression shifted from sadness to something harder, something guarded. "Everyone has secrets, Mrs. Hartley." "Indeed they do, and I have learned that secrets left in the dark grow teeth." She began to walk away, 3 steps, 4, 5. Then Daniel spoke again, and his voice had changed. It was lower, sharper. "You're right," he said. "I'm not her son." Elowen stopped but did not turn around. "But I know who killed the real Liam Doyle." Mrs. Hartley turned slowly. "The real Liam Doyle," Daniel said, standing up now, "didn't step on a mine. He was shot by someone who knew him, someone who wanted him dead. And that someone," Daniel continued, "is living in this village, right now, 3 streets away." Mrs. Hartley said nothing for a long, terrible moment. Then she adjusted her hat, took a breath, and walked back toward the bench. "And that is where I must leave you for now. Who is Daniel Cross? What happened to the real Liam Doyle? And why has this secret stayed buried for 15 years? Those answers will come, but not yet. Here's what I can tell you. The young man on the bench is lying about something. Mrs. Hartley saw it in his hands, the way he folded them, the way he wouldn't meet her eyes when he said, 'Everyone has secrets.' He has one, a big one. And in part 2, which is coming very soon right here on this channel, we will find out what it is. So here is what I need from you. Subscribe. Tap the button so it tells YouTube that you want more stories like this one. Ring the bell so you don't miss part 2 when it arrives. And leave a comment. Tell me, do you trust Daniel Cross, or do you think he's hiding something worse than he admitted? I read every comment, and sometimes a comment becomes the next mystery. This has been Mrs. Elowen Hartley. Be curious, be kind, and always notice the hands. I will see you in part 2.